If there's one thing I've learned when it comes to successful homeschooling, it's that moms and dads need to be on the same page. Now, here's what I mean. There are definitely going to be days when one parent or the other is just wondering why on earth they're homeschooling their kids. Maybe they're just simply having a bad day. Maybe the kids have struggled with some of the material. Or maybe one of the parents is just plain tired. Trust me, if you homeschool, you know what I'm talking about. In those moments, you need someone to lean on. Or at the very least, someone who will support you and encourage you. And you know what? The most likely person to do that is your spouse. Yet, a homeschooling parent can sometimes feel awfully alone because, one, their spouse hasn't really bought into homeschooling. Or, two, is supportive but not really involved. So let me dig into that a little bit more. Sometimes two parents may not see eye to eye on whether their child should be homeschooled. One of the parents might not be convinced that homeschooling is really the way to go for any number of reasons. They might worry over, the academic rigor. They might wonder if everyone's going to be stressed out, parents and child, or they might have certain assumptions about things like socialization. In spite of those things and those misgivings, their son or daughter may be homeschooled anyway. And you know what? At the first sign of trouble, the doubtful mom or dad may be less than supportive simply because they never really wanted their child to be homeschooled in the first place. Now, sometimes the spouse is supportive, but it really isn't involved. In fact, they may be supportive of almost any decision that's made, whether that involves homeschooling or public school. And you know what? They don't really have much of an opinion on either option. Okay, look, having that kind of support is definitely better than nothing at all. But you know what? Parents need to do more than just lend verbal support and then sit on the fence ready to back any decision that's made. See, moms and dads both need to be involved. But you know what? It doesn't necessarily mean that they both take on the role of teacher or facilitator. Let's face it, it just isn't practical when, in many cases, at least one of the parents works outside the home. All right, so what does getting involved look like? Well, while it's important that one parent take on the role of primary educator, the other should be fully aware of what's going on. So that includes, things like knowing what type of curriculum your child is using. You might need to know what your son or daughter is struggling with, what they're good at, and what they're currently working on. Okay, you get the idea. It also means that at least from time to time, the other parent helps out directly, and that might mean lending a hand at actually teaching a difficult lesson, maybe getting involved in a project, sometimes going along on the occasional field trip. Of course, this may mean different things to different families. It depends on their approach to homeschooling, and let's be frank, other practical considerations. Of course, saying that parents should be on the same page is a whole lot easier than actually doing it. But you know what? Communication in this case is vital. Whether you want to homeschool your child and your spouse doesn't think it's a great idea, or it's the other way around, it's important to listen. Maybe there are some things you just haven't considered, whether that's to homeschool or not, and your spouse has some sound, reasonable points to make. So don't kid yourself. It takes both parents to successfully homeschool. And like I said, it doesn't mean that both parents have an equal share in things like teaching or organizing, but it shouldn't be left to just one person. Now, in the majority of homes where kids are homeschooled, it's pretty typical that the mother is the primary educator. So allow me to end this video with a message for the dads. The dads, your wife, she needs your support. She needs more than just a cheerleader. She needs you to know what's going on. Because you know what? In those moments when she might be doubting herself, she'll need you to talk things out with. While telling her that you support whatever she decides to do is a step in the right direction, it's not really enough. You should be able to give some thoughtful and well-informed feedback. And you know what? You can only do that if you know what's going on. You should also be willing to step in and help out once in a while. You know what? If you're not a big fan of your kids being homeschooled, then carefully consider your reasons for those feelings. You may discover that you've made certain assumptions that simply aren't true. All right. Thanks for now. We'll see you next time.